Namaskara, my dear ladies and gentlemen. How are you doing today? Did you know that the manufacturing share in India's GDP continues to be hovering around 16%, minus maybe 1.5% for the last 25 years? Despite the national manufacturing policy wanting to achieve 25% manufacturing share by 2022, which didn't happen. Then the Make in India initiative, the Zero Effect, Zero Defect initiative, the recently launched PLI initiative, then the massive initiative to really create sector skill councils through NSDC, who have generated what is called as National Occupational Standard for almost all the kind of jobs that are being done in this country to ensure that the workforce gets skilled and we have availability of skilled workforce. Despite all this, the share of manufacturing GDP has remained around 16%. Have you any time thought if there might be some other driver or contributor to the manufacturing GDP not increasing beyond 16%? And that's the topic of my video today. I have been working with multiple companies since 2013, before which I was with Bosch in India, Brazil and Germany, where I have seen the drivers for growth in manufacturing. And I've been trying to implement that with our clients as a consultant and coach with a lot of Indian companies since 2013. And with all this experience, I believe for revenue to grow in manufacturing, the most important thing is to have a product which is robust, of course, which has features which are accepted and necessary for the market segment. And there is a appropriate business model, needless to say. That is something which is quite obvious. I don't think there is much debate on that. And there are a lot of people in the market who can give advice and consult and coach and mentor on the right business model. The problem becomes a little more tricky when it comes to the other drivers which are extremely important, possibly have a bigger share in the growth of the manufacturing sector, since most of the companies in India are into contract manufacturing, wherein you're basically building to print based on the drawings issued by the customer. So therefore, the product per se is not the main topic. It's about the consistent, outstanding performance with continual improvement. So consistently delivering zero defect quality, 100% on time in full delivery every day. OEE of the constraint being monitored and continually improved to world-class levels of beyond 85%. Productivity, improving productivity regularly. That's something which is extremely the key to ensuring that you stay in the competition and you are able to grow, because the productivity ensures that the companies are preparing for the future. Inventory turns, reduction of inventory, despite so many lean practices, so many theory of constraints, interventions. Of course, the inventory have come down, but to maintain and sustain them at the lower levels is a very important topic, which I am trying to say is possibly not optimal when I look at the other experiences which I have had outside India, especially in Germany and to some extent in Japan, where I used to go there quite regularly. Then the most important thing is continual improvement. Whenever I've gone to a company, the first thing I ask is, how many improvements have you done in the last 1 week? And you know what the answer is? It's quite surprising, but that's the reality. Zero. Most of the companies. And why is it so? why is it that we have such a big problem? When you look at the initiatives the government is taking, initiatives that everybody is taking, everybody is wishing to be increasing the manufacturing share in GDP, but it remains more or less stagnant at 16%. For all this, the most, significant factor, significant driver is employee involvement. Only through employee involvement will one be able to achieve continual improvement, which then results in continual increase in the inventory turns, increase in productivity, improvement in OEE, ability to achieve 100% on time and full delivery, zero defect quality, and doing all this will naturally increase the revenue and enable a manufacturing company to grow. That is something which I have seen, I have experienced over so many years. In case you want to know how I go about addressing this issue and what the key, the enablers in the company which achieve this world-class status, let me explain the 7 enablers. The first one, common understanding of where do we stand today. That is mandatory because manufacturing has a lot of people and each person has a different perception. Unless there is a common understanding and where do we stand today, what our priorities are, the acceleration and the speed necessary for improvement is not at all available, because there are some people who are working towards one direction and others who are also wanting to improve, maybe working in a direction which is not the same as the other person. Therefore, despite 2 people putting in their best efforts, the outcome, the global outcome will be deceleration, will be slowing down. So therefore, common understanding is a must. Then in today's world, everybody know a lot of information. Everybody have information. Therefore, inclusive strategy development is a must. Why do I say it's a must? Unless the people involved in executing the strategy are involved in developing the strategy, their buy-in and conviction that whatever strategy that has been developed will work is quite fragile. Therefore, it's mandatory that people who are executing the strategy are fully involved in strategy development. Once strategy is developed, it's important to create a rolling plan for detailing the strategy. That is the next enabler. They are simple enablers, nothing so complex, because all our activities are through gamification. All our activities are by involving everyone, top floor to shop floor, through Socratic discussions, debates. So it's not about bombarding with content. All of you know everything. There is nothing new to be done. But we basically work on bridging the gap between knowing and doing and making sure that the teams work in a synchronized way so that the outcomes can be achieved miraculously. The next one, which is extremely, common, is to many a times not even have an execution plan. In case you have an execution plan, there are not sufficient buffers. Manufacturing is an industry where Dr. Murphy is very, very active. So it's mandatory to have buffers in execution planning. You can't plan without buffers. But the key is to decide where do you put the buffer. To have buffers everywhere doesn't make any sense. To only have the buffer at the end makes sense. I think all of you must have heard of critical chain project management, where this concept is explained by Goldratt, an outstanding book I recommend you to read, to get the idea as to what this common sense is. That's what we do in all our activities, all our functions. Wherever we go, we always put the buffer at the end, in family, in personal activities. Whereas in company, you got buffer everywhere. That doesn't really help. You need to have buffer, but place the buffer at the right point. Then the next one, which is kind of the linchpin of any company, is to have a daily work management meeting, which is outstanding, efficient and effective, for about 10 to 15 minutes, where everybody come on board and you reinforce the monitoring and reviewing, which is the outcome of the daily work management meeting, the weekly improvement meeting, monthly business review, then quarterly board meeting. These are something which is mandatory. Without this, progress will not happen. Without this, consistency will not come, because it is important to constantly bring everybody on the same track, because of constant learning and the speed at which people are able to learn and improve themselves makes them, without them knowing, to deviate, causing retardation in the entire system. So the effective and efficient monitoring and reviewing is the key to achieving consistent, sustainable growth, and more so the daily work management meeting. Let us say all these are done and then we still are people. People means each one of us have got our own strengths, our own weaknesses, our own fears, our own apprehensions. And how do you address that? Through regular routine dialogue between the superior and the subordinate. This is again another thing which is quite rare in most of the Indian companies, to really sit and find out what the target was, what are you doing, how can I help you as a boss, and what can I do to make sure that your work becomes easier, because only if you succeed do I succeed. So there's no question of failing. So that's something which is extremely important, the routine dialogue, which is another enabler. And finally, I think all of you are very well trained in this problem solving, structured problem solving. I put the problem solving at the end because if there is no common understanding, the strategy is not developed inclusively, strategy detailing is not done with a rolling plan, execution planning with buffer is not being practiced, and there is no monitoring and reviewing, and routine dialogues are very, very rare, then problem solving only helps us to keep on solving problems which are not problems. So let's make sure that we solve the true problem. Therefore, the problem solving comes at the end. Despite doing all this, in case there are still problems, then the next enabler is problem solving. Despite so much effort from the outside, let us think what we can do from the inside of each company to increase the manufacturing GDP to 25%, which I believe is possible and necessary for ensuring that the employment opportunities are available to the large population of this country, which I'm sure is one of the primary drivers of any entrepreneur, and also to ensure that we are in a position to achieve the, world number 1 status and world number 3 status, like what our Honorable Prime Minister says in the next 5 years. So let us see what would be our outcome. But it is important to increase the manufacturing share of GDP for our country to progress. Now, you may be wondering, will there be a cultural fit? Will there be a buy-in from all our stakeholders, all our key players? Because there are a lot of people who have been there in the organization, who've been working there in a particular way. Now, this guy comes in and talks about so many enablers and so many things, a lot of models, a lot of concepts. Will that really gel into our culture? Will there be a buy-in? And what about sustainability? Is the timing correct? Because we've got so many other initiatives going on. Is it correct to start another initiative now? These could be the questions that each one of you have. I'm sure they are all fully justified. But what I want to say for each of these is that we have been working with companies from a micro size to a multinational company with diverse backgrounds. Our main approach is hands-on. We go to the shop floor. We do definitely discuss with the management, because the management buy-in is extremely necessary. Without that, implementing anything on the shop floor is just a fallacy. It won't really work. Therefore, we do discuss with the management, get the buy-in, and also we get the managers to do what seem to be the basics. And in doing that, we are hand-holding along with them on the shop floor. So I want to just say that we have got clients where people who have not even done their schooling are able to become great supervisors, great team leaders, using some fundamental insights, because running a manufacturing company is possibly very easy. I used to say this many a times when I would start addressing the freshers, because in manufacturing, all you need to do is establish that common understanding and define a noble purpose, and people will go for it, because nobody wants to fail. Everybody is trying to fulfill and trying to achieve, trying to succeed in some way or the other. So the important thing is to really set the direction, and you have so many people along with you. Everybody will go for the target. I just want to conclude by talking about one example from Brazil, where I was a manufacturing engineering head for one of the products, and then we had an order from Germany, and we had to deliver about 20,000 components to Germany, and Germany didn't want to give it to Brazil. They said that, look, you are third world and you don't know anything, and we can't get such a high precision component manufactured in Brazil for German market. I'm talking about the 90s, when the globalization and intercontinental supplies were not very high. And this particular component has tolerances of less than a micron. A micron, for those of you who are not into mechanical engineering, is a very, very small dimension. My hair possibly is about 70 to 80 microns. And we had to produce 20,000 components to the tolerance of a micron or less than a micron. And so all I did was went to the shop floor, and then we had a discussion, and we said it's a question of pride for Brazil. Those days, Ayrton Senna was the world Formula One, top Formula One racer. And of course, from Brazil, and many of you might have heard of Ayrton Senna. Unfortunately, he died in a race. And therefore, and Brazil is, of course, very popular for football. So there was a kind of a national pride in making sure that we don't let down our country. It's a question of our country. And the objective was to make sure that whatever we do it correctly. So all we did was ensure that the process is followed. We ensured that the steps which have been defined have been religiously followed without any compromise. And the outcome, you must be wondering what would have happened. The German guy, he sent me a telex saying that, what is it that you did? Because we checked all the 20,000 parts for form errors, which is not very common in our standards room. It took us almost about 3 months to do it. And we didn't find any single part outside the tolerance. And I really felt very, very happy. And I congratulated my team. And then I wrote back to him saying that, look, all we did was just show them the path, and the team achieved wonders. And that's what is possible in manufacturing, my dear ladies and gentlemen. Help us help you. You're most welcome to just book a short discussion with me on understanding what I do and what we do. Use this video as a, input and inspiration for you to start looking at your own performance when it comes to zero defect quality, 100% on time and full delivery, OEE of the constraint being at least 85%, productivity being beyond more than the wage increases which you give year on year, inventory turns constantly increasing, continual improvement in your processes, and finally, most importantly, employee engagement, so that all your employees are involved in some way or the other in contributing to your improvements, to your delivery, anywhere they are involved, to your improvement, so that we become a country with 25% manufacturing GDP. Thank you very much for watching, and do use the links in the description for booking a meeting with me, or you can directly go to our website and drop in an inquiry. We would be more than happy to serve you. Thank you so much, and goodbye.